Welcome everyone to 14.7 GitLab release kickoff. This is the last kickoff for this year. As a reminder, we plan ambitiously, so everything we say and share here is subject to change, so please don't make any material purchasing decisions based on these plans. That said, I want to welcome everybody to go to the release kickoff page and engage with us on all the cool work we're going to talk about here. You can help come build with us to make software easy and secure. I'm going to share a few look backs from last year or last 12 months just to see how the team and everybody has done here. So I looked at all the capabilities that and improvements that were shipped last year, and there were over 500 of them. As you can see, there are improvements in practically every stage of the DevOps life cycle, which is amazing. Great job, team. And then if you go through it and see how we added value to tiers, we continue to be great stewards of the GitLab open source, while also being responsible and consistent with our monetization strategy by adding capabilities to premium and ultimate tier using our buyer-based tiering model. That's pretty excellent. And then finally, I was looking at a deep dive into each stage and whether a stage is particularly focused on monetization or on adding capabilities for the free tier. And clearly, this is very similar and consistent from last year, where certain stages are more focused on adding value for developers, others for teams, and others for organization. That's pretty cool. Thank you. And what an amazing, amazing team this is. We're going to kick it off today with enablement, starting with Josh, followed by Dev, David, Hillary will cover our sec section, and then Kenny will bring us home with ops. Take it away, Josh.
Thanks, Anoop, and thanks everyone for attending. I will be covering off the enablement highlights, and first wanted to talk through a little bit of what we achieved, similar to Anoop last year, or I should say the past year. The first thing is that we've been focused heavily on the GitLab hosted first theme for most of the year. We delivered significant improvements to performance and scalability throughout multiple data stores, including Postgres and Elasticsearch, reduced our memory consumption and improved our disaster recovery features. We've also improved the maturity of 3 categories: geo-replication, disaster recovery, and cloud-native deployment. There's a few more highlights down below, but with that, let's jump into what we're working on this release here, starting with GitLab hosted first. We've been continuing the theme of decomposition to help improve the overall headroom of our database on GitLab.com and for all of our customers. And we'll be continuing to focus on this. And the database group will be doing the work to ensure that our tooling can support multiple databases as we move the CI database content out into a separate database. So again, this will give us scalability improvements, but also performance improvements because we can spread the write load out to multiple databases. We'll also be working on a similar model for Redis and splitting out our session keys to a separate Redis instance to similarly give us more scalability and performance there as well. The memory group is doing this work. And we're also doing similar decomposition work with our Elasticsearch index to move our commits out into a separate index as well for very similar reasons. On the global search side, we've seen significant performance improvements by moving multiple types of each type of content out into its own indexes. So we've been at this for a while. We've had great results, and so we're continuing to do the work here for the rest of the data types. Last up, for GitLab hosted first, we are working to make generally available our object storage replication framework. Not all customers can utilize the built-in object storage application for their object store because it might not be there. And so we have built-in support within Geo to do this for those folks, but it's currently beta. And so we want to go through and just make sure it all works and dot our I's and cross our T's. We don't know of anything major, but we want to make sure we do that pass before making it GA. Next up, moving on to usability, we are finishing up our work to replace the old jQuery-based dropdown with a pajamas-based component. Pajamas is GitLab's design framework and uses reusable widgets, if you will, to standardize across GitLab. There are a large number of known issues with the current dropdown, which we'll be fixing by moving over to pajamas-based GitLab dropdown. So very excited for this, and it'll also allow us to build on top of this bar in the future to realize some of those UX improvements, because we'll be investing into a widget that actually is intended to continue forward into the product. So a bit of tech debt here, but we'll set us up for success later. We're also working on the new market side to complete our Red Hat official certification of our operator. So we hopefully will get it here in 14.7, but if not, we'll be very close. We're working through a couple items here, in particular on offering support for Openshift 4.9. And the reason why it's a bit more challenging is because it requires support for Kubernetes 1.2.2. Now, there have been some deprecations within Kubernetes around the API framework. We released a blog post on this, which might impact you if you use our built-in Nginx Ingress service. And you might want to read that blog post with more intention, but the overall idea here is to support K8s 1.2.2 and Openshift 4.9 and drive through a few of the last remaining items here on support for the Openshift certification. So that's it for enablement. Really excited about it and really proud of our work overall for this year. And I'll hand it off to David to take us through what we're doing for dev.
Thank you, Josh. And let's get a little more festive here. There we go. Now let's talk about the dev and model ops sections. So to start us off with dev, let's talk about the manage stage. So the manage team is working on adoption to usability, and actually all of dev is focused on this for this milestone. For the newly renamed Authentication Authorization Group, formerly Access, they'll be working on support for FIDO2-based SSH keys. Very exciting. This is, again, continue to extend what we can do from an authentication standpoint and addressing some of the newer things in the security industry. The compliance team is finishing up their work on the MVC for streaming audit events. This will provide a GraphQL endpoint for people to define where they would like their compliance audit events to go to externally from GitLab, as well as, of course, still going into the audit events functionality of our application. If you want to learn more about the streaming audit events, I highly recommend you check out Sam's video. He does a really good job of walking through the roadmap, as well as giving you some really good use cases as to why we're implementing this. The compliance team is also working on improving the compliance report and compliance dashboard. To show you what this looks like today, you have a list of compliance items to address. When you click on this, we'll be introducing a tray that will slide out, and we'll give you additional details about that event that you're looking at on the dashboard. The optimized team is looking to improve the usability of the value stream analytics. Example here, this is on the left, the current behavior of what the value stream analytics looks like when you look at it. They're looking to enhance that so you get things such as the project, eventually labels and other details to help that be as rich as our issue list functionality inside the issue tracker. And then the workspace team is getting ready to release their first official feature. This is a great usability improvement. Today, when you go into the editing of labels, you do not have the option to delete them. You have to do that in a different view. Here you can see this is actually our demo project. We use a lot for demoing dev and sec. If I come in here and edit it, there is no edit button, and I am the owner of this project. So this will be coming in and beginning to support labels moving into workspace and then beginning to address usability for all tiers of the product. For plan, they're continuing to work on the work items initiative. Last time I talked a little bit about the introduction of task as an item. Task is a child of issue, and this will allow you to begin to track the individual components that need to be delivered. For this milestone, they're finishing up the work to view a task, like the compliance dashboard, or if you look at the security policy editor or secure orchestration components, a tray can slide out from the side where you'll get to see the name of it, as well as any description, and then comments can be added to that as well. Part of this is also improving the editability. And so they'll be working on introducing some of the improvements that the editor team is working on within task. Example of this is being able to edit the title in line. So here you can see an edit view of this item, which is in the wiki. I can click on it, come in, rename it, and be able to just click off of it to save it. So really nice, big usability improvement. The create stage is primarily focused on Q4 OKRs. This includes our infra-dev focus for Gitlab Hosted first, as well as our continuous security vulnerability burn down. However, one item I wanted to highlight is something the editor team is working on. They're looking to improve how we handle very large markdown files as part of the wiki experience. So as more users begin to standardize on our wiki, we want to make sure they can get that same experience they get with the wikis they're moving from. And then finally, in partnership with the applied ML team, the code review team is getting ready to launch the beta program for our new suggested reviewers functionality. This functionality is bringing in the acquisition of Unreview, where we're now going to be able to recommend code reviewers based off of lots of different data points. Expect to see this announced in January. We'll have a blog post come out, and then you'll be redirected to this form you're seeing here to fill in and sign up for access to the beta program. And then finally, before kicking it over to Hillary to talk about SEC, I also want to kind of give you a look back on this year from the dev section perspective. We focused a lot on adoption through usability, and that's been a theme for FY22. Some of the things I wanted to highlight: we improved our settings and navigation. Josh touched on what the foundations team has been doing with building out pajama components and get a unified experience across the UI. The dev section kicked off Workspace, and we're focused on improving performance as well as providing parity between SaaS and self-managed. The plan team continues to improve reliability and performance of key endpoints as part of the product planning experience. And of course, we touched on the audit events, the compliance is rolled out, but also they introduced compliance pipelines, which has become very popular at Ultimate. Another focus we had was improving our visibility. And you can see that with some of the things we've been able to report on now. This includes better visibility in how Atlassian integrations are being used, how our import experience goes for our users as they move from their other projects, their project locations over to us for their DevOps. And then we also addressed a bunch of key jobs to be done. Obviously, the one related to settings and navigation, but also the rollout of the content editor and giving a better editing experience. The managed access team now manage authentication and authorization. Have rolled out things like Group SAML, allowing enterprises to have better management over their provisioned users. And then finally, product planning introduced filter improvements as well as Epic board improvements as well. So a lot of exciting stuff happened in dev this year. Also excited to see the applied and machine learning team get involved as well. But from everyone in the dev and model ops sections, my wife, our lovely dogs, we all want to wish you a happy holidays. And I'm going to go get all this pulled out of my beard before my next customer call. Just feels like that's something I should probably do. So with that, over to Hillary.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it. Okay, let me share on my screen here. All right. Hopefully you're seeing the right thing here. All right, so SEC has a bunch of really great stuff going on this milestone. So to start off here with static analysis, we're continuing to roll out our custom rule set improvements to additional analyzers. And so as a reminder, the idea behind this work is to provide the option to customers to extend rules to each of our analyzers on a project by project basis for a couple purposes. One is to help reduce false positives, and then also to provide coverage beyond the rules that we ship by default in GitLab. So the SimGrep, Node.js, and GoSec analyzers are already supported, and we'll continue to roll out custom rule set support to additional analyzers gradually over the course of multiple milestones, and we're working on that in this milestone. For dynamic analysis, we're also working on providing an on-demand scan index page so that customers can access all their safe scans from a single location. So basically the idea here is to provide easy access from within the on-demand menus to go and kick off a new scan from a saved configuration. So here's a preview of what that'll look like. So basically you'll be able to go and see if you've configured a scan, what the name of that scan is, what it's targeting, what mode it's in, and then you'll be able to kick off a scan directly from this page. So that's what's going on for on-demand scanning. Also in dynamic analysis, we're working on continuing to add or continuing to establish passive attack parity between the OWASP ZAP library of attacks and our browser-based scanning. So we aim to roll out about 5 to 7 new attacks, each corresponding to a common weakness enumeration or CWE with each milestone. And you can explore which ones are targeted for this milestone in this issue here, continuing to work on that. In container security, we're also working on moving cluster image scanning from alpha to GA state. So this has been in progress for a few milestones now. Customers may have noticed that operational vulns have already shipped to the vuln report page. So you can, as you can see, you take a look at this on this page. You can see that this page highlights any vulnerabilities found in applications that have already moved into a production or running state. So basically, we're continuing to roll this out. We anticipate shipping the GA version of this functionality within the next couple of milestones, and are actively looking for customer feedback. So if anyone's using this in its alpha state, please share that feedback if you have it. And then finally, with Thread Insights, we're also kicking off this milestone on our hotly anticipated integrated developer training. So with this functionality, we're aiming to address the challenges that organizations have with scaling out security education to developers in a way that's engaging and also directly relevant to the work that they're actually doing on a daily basis. So the idea is to embed small chunks of security training at sort of critical points within the developer workflow. So if they're looking at reviewing security findings in an MR, in pipelines, or on the vulnerability report, they'd basically be able to access this training from there. So the embedded training will kick a developer to a topical training module provided by one of our third-party security training providers, and they'd be able to view a tidbit about the specific security issue that they're actively trying to resolve. So say, for instance, a new developer is reviewing a security finding in GitLab about a SQL injection vulnerability, but that individual has no prior experience with it. They'd be able to go and access a topic-specific training module that kind of educates them on the fly. So, of course, we're super excited about this work, and we'll be iterating on this over a number of upcoming milestones, but we're kicking that off shortly here. So, and that's it for Sec. With that, I'll turn it over to Kenny to talk about ops.
Awesome. Thanks, Hillary. Yeah, that integrated training is really exciting. And I've got some tough acts to follow, but I'll try. My name is Kenny. I cover the ops section. There were tons of items that I wanted to highlight in this kickoff, but I'm not going to be able to get to all of them. So I'm just going to jump to some very specific ones. The first, and the kind of the spirit of look back, the entire ops section, every group published letters from the editor. So these are the product leaders communicating what we've accomplished in the last year and what we plan to work on in the coming year. I had the opportunity to review those from each one of the ops section groups and kind of summarize that in this letter from me. But I really wanted to highlight that during the course of this last year, we've focused a lot on GitLab first. We had a kind of verify abuse spike that happened at the start of the year. It's crazy to think that that was last February when this first started occurring. And as a result, the whole organization moved into action, helped reduce the impact of that both to our customers and our GitLab team members, and has since had a really heavy focus on ensuring that we maintain our error budgets and keep a very close eye on our SaaS services availability, reliability, and scalability. Secondly, we've also had a really big focus on adoption through usability. You heard that from a number of other sections, but I'm particularly proud that in the ops section, we've consistently beat our very ambitious CMAU goals, which is number of users across a whole number of stages. There's 5 stages that make up the ops section. And we've been seeing rapid growth across all sections through the course of this year. So really great to see the results show up from all of our hard efforts through the course of the year. Thank you to the team. The other exciting thing that I wanted to share with you that I'm super excited to get to share, we announced last week that GitLab acquired a company called Opstrace, and I've been working closely with the Opstrace team as part of this acquisition for the better part of 4 months. And I'm really excited to see the expertise that they bring in building and that they've brought in having built a open source observability solution integrated into GitLab. So the team is stellar. I'm excited for them to hit the ground running. We'll be creating a new monitor observability group that this team will form, and they'll be working on integration over the coming milestones. And so that integration will benefit our users in having an on by default, immediately available, set up and configured correctly observability platform for developers to utilize so that they can not have to create that on their own or have their organization create it on their own. And get the benefits of seeing, eventually seeing things like integrated observability insights right while you're coding, or direct connection between incident management and the deploys and committers and reviewers of code that was recently deployed. So I'm really excited about what the future holds for this integration and the team hitting the ground running over the next couple of weeks to really work on integrating this directly into GitLab. The other themes that I wanted to highlight are across the other product groups. Our first, usability. And so one of the things that we've been focused on in our SaaS first approach has been the control of costs. And so we're going to specifically be performing a lot of work over the coming milestone, understanding the costs that GitLab as a SaaS service incurs when users use CI. It's important to recognize that we also want to make sure we reduce the costs for users who are self-hosting their own runners, that they can minimize the amount of ingress and egress charges that they're getting from their cloud providers in shipping, whether it's Git repo clones or package registry, image registry downloads back and forth across the internet. So we want to make sure we have great tools for both GitLab and our users who are providing their self-hosted runners to control their data transfer costs. Next, we recently announced that we were deprecating our certificate-based cluster integration. So we've been having a heavy focus on improving the existing auto DevOps capabilities so that they work with the new Kubernetes agent. So there's a series of work that the configure group is doing to finalize that so that so that it is very straightforward for auto deploy and auto DevOps to work with a project who has an attached cluster via the agent process. That includes both making sure that the kube ingress domain isn't required and that we have documentation for how to set up review apps when you're using the agent. Next, in the pipeline authoring group, we're going to be working on improving the tooltips that you get when you're looking at keywords in the pipeline editor. So today, when you're writing a CI pipeline, you get a little squiggly mark that says there's a syntax error. But we also want to provide tooltips that show you, so you can hover over a specific keyword and get links to documentation so you can more quickly understand the parameters that you can use for individual keywords when writing your CI/CD pipelines. And get a view of that here. So we would have a standard tooltip that would say, hey, in the script section, here's what you can use, and a little learn more to get a direct link to the documentation. Next, in the container registry, actually as a result of a database migration that we've been working on for some time, we're going to start being able to allow you to sort the tags within your container registry. So that will include this view where today we're going to start with being able to sort by name, but eventually you'll be able to have other filters to be able to quickly find the specific image tag in your container registry repositories. And then lastly, the two highlights that I really wanted to focus on were in new markets were from the runner team. So the runner team both needs to ensure that runners are manageable at scale and that there are great fleet management capabilities, but also that GitLab runner as a kind of foundational component for GitLab CI/CD is capable of running in a lot of various environments. And so they're going to be working on FIPS compliant runner that enables it to run in more secure, especially US federal workloads. And then the next one is the Kubernetes runner operator. Previously, we've been focusing this operator specifically on working with Openshift, but we're going to make it more generic so that the operator is available for any type of Kubernetes environment, not just Openshift. So those are the things that I'm really excited about. And as David mentioned, I'm really proud of the work that this group has done, and I'm excited for everyone taking a nice break around the holidays, and happy holidays to everyone who is listening. Over to you, Anoop.
Thank you, Kenny. That was awesome. I heard a few amazing things. Decomposition of our data stores. So it's not just about Postgres, but Redis and Elastic for large-scale self-managed and SaaS environments. Official Red Hat certification for the operator. So all our customers can be assured that GitLab and Red Hat are working together to make this work and stable for you. Enriched compliance dashboards. So you have the right details at your fingertips. Recommending the right code reviewers using machine learning to help address a major source of delay and frustration for developers. Love the secure team's efforts to reduce false positives, provide extensibility, and I'm looking forward to the GA of cluster image scanning. Integrated developer training into vulnerability management. That's actually amazing. Let's find out how people receive it, because I'm really excited about learning while we go in the flow. On by default, easy observability platform powered by Opstrace. This is going to be huge investment for us next year, so I'm really looking forward to the early iterations. And then reducing data costs, transfer costs for CI to help reduce costs or control costs for all of our users. Almost everybody uses CI, so everything we can do to help our users and customers, that's awesome. FIPS compliant runners and GitLab runner operator for all Kubernetes environments all sound super interesting. I want to take a second and share with the team what our fiscal 23 themes are going to look like. Just like last year, we have 3 themes this year. We are continuing our GitLab hosted first theme. We think we have made a whole lot of progress. We established error budgets, availability targets, and we're starting to meet many of them. We think we need to continue down this path and become more robust around here. The second is improving key workflow usabilities, again, inspired from adoption through usability 3. what we've realized is we made a really broad effort last year to improve usability, and we accomplished a lot. And we found that there are certain key workflows that are often more complex and require more cross-functional alignment to drive the hard 20% remaining 20% of the changes. So that's where we're going to focus on, including excellent planning workflows, intuitive settings and navigation, onboarding and learnability to help drive multi-stage adoption, a code review experience that's more efficient and intuitive, the ability to create and edit pipelines that is intuitive and customizable, and then deployment workflows that enable collaboration between the platform and apps teams to perform safe, reliable, continuous deployments. And third is extending our lead in CI/CD. CI is one of the first use cases the customers or users experience, and we want to make sure that it continues to be improved. We'll work on ensuring a scalable and efficient CI service, robust cloud runners, improved adoption of the package management capabilities, and safe and secure deployments. So those are the things we're planning as an area of emphasis for fiscal 23. That doesn't mean other areas are not getting focus or less focus. Those will continue as their stage groups usually do. With that, I want to wish all of you a great holiday season. Stay safe, and we'll see you again in 2022. Bye.